Looky here, it's the Pat and JT podcast.
Pat and JT podcast.
So it's appropriate on October 1st, kicking off our favorite month of the year. Josh Hurd is in studio with us for our podcast. Hi, Josh.
Hey,
Scary
guys.
man.
Hey.
You're
How are
the
we
expert
doing?
in scary.
Probably, right. Best known, I don't know, what would we say? Your movie, Malvern Manor, TLC. You had a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, I mean, I try to keep as busy as possible. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, so the Manor definitely keeps me busy.
You know what?
all
Before
the
we
time.
go any further, if somebody doesn't know about Malvern Manor, I just saw a picture of it for the first time not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Seriously, I've read
Yeah.
all about it. I've heard you talk about it. It's big.
It's
And
about 10,000 square feet.
It's big.
Good
of just
Lord.
kind of-
of haunted?
Of just paranormal playground.
What's
yeah.
what's the manor's history?
So we know it was built in the mid 1800s, and then by the late 1800s, it was in full swing as a hotel.
Was it called Malvern Manor at that time?
No, it was actually the Cottage Hotel at that time. And it was pretty much like the place to be in that area. Now, primarily, it was obviously servicing the railroad and all of that. But yeah, we know it ran as a hotel all the way up until the 1950s. So it had a
Wow.
really good
Jeez.
run there, you know? And it was going through owners like crazy. Like looking through the history, it's kind of hilarious just because it was almost as if some of them were losing the building in a poker game or something.
You wonder.
It was just
Maybe.
back
You
and
wonder.
forth.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Playing for pink slips here.
Right.
Bring
And
your
then
deed.
we do know in the 1950s is when it became then what we would consider to be like a nursing home type setting. So there's a very odd section of building that was put on in 1956 that kind of jets out from everything else and just looks as if it doesn't belong. But regardless, you know, it was put in to kind of accommodate this nursing home setting. So back there, you'll find wider door frames, a lot of laminate type flooring in the rooms themselves, but definitely suggesting a more medical atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then we know in the 70s, the state of Iowa comes in, shuts the place down because the hallways weren't wide enough to support transporting patients properly and all of that. And this is where, you know, history becomes the most fascinating for geeks and nerds like myself. And that is where it becomes the group home, servicing any type of mental disorder you could possibly imagine. And it's things that we see every day. People with drug and alcohol abuse,
Yeah.
people with Down syndrome, things that are very common.
And at that time, it was a whole different
Completely.
mentality about it. I mean, whole different. yeah,
Completely.
exactly.
So those four things: hotel, group home, old
Nursing
folks
home.
home, and nursing home.
Correct.
were like four of the top things I
Right.
would assume that
institutions.
right
Yes.
that were like those
And
are the
that's
most
just it.
haunted
It's like-
places.
and it's so weird because
And now it's your home.
Dude, yeah. and now you basically live there. Awesome.
basically live there.
It's like good on you, pal.
Seriously. No, okay, go back. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. So go
Oh
ahead.
no,
So-
but it's just the clientele itself is fascinating to me because you have these very common type ailments that we see on the daily, and then you also have the opposite side of the coin where you have some very exotic type of ailments here. So DID or multiple personalities is what it used to be referred to as.
right.
Schizophrenics, even murderers, guys. Like this is a very eclectic group of people coexisting under the same roof.
That had nowhere else to be
No.
in society, and so they put them.
Right. And
Yeah.
it wasn't as if these people were on like lockdown
That's what
or
I was gonna
anything
say,
like
'cause
that.
they
No,
weren't
they
restrained.
were commingling and all of this.
Could they
stuff.
come and go as they please?
Some of them could, absolutely.
But like a halfway house. Okay, I get,
Yeah,
I get what you're
yeah,
saying.
very, very,
Some
very
were
similar.
restricted. Some.
So when did it
had more
stop being
permissions.
something like that?
When the law changed?
Yeah.
Guys, yeah, right?
basically.
So, and this is another thing that fascinates me is the building itself didn't close down until 2005. It really wasn't that long ago.
What was it? What was it
It was
until
still doing the same
2005?
thing.
It was running as that
doing the
all
same
the way
thing.
up until 2005.
Wow, that's crazy.
Ridiculous.
Wow. Okay, so then it closed down in 2005. What happened?
So yeah, it closed down. There was a laundry list of reasons why. The building not being up to code. I mean, for God's sake, the last inspection or what have you that they had with the state. The state comes in. It was February 15th of 2005, and there was no heat in the building. You know what I'm saying? So there's now neglect and abuse and things of that nature that are also added to this list as well. Since then, or from there, it I do know a couple different families that did attempt to live in the place. And then the gentleman that we actually purchased the building from lived there for about 6 months before he
Said no more.
said no more.
Was it because of the haunted
Well,
activity?
that's
Is why
it.
he bailed?
That's what's kind of weird about it, right? So, and his name is Quincy. Quincy is just an amazing guy. And he doesn't really believe in this stuff. Or if he does, he kind of just admires from afar. But he's one of those guys that's going to explain everything away, no matter what.
Okay.
He could not explain this stuff away. And it just
So,
got to be too much.
Washing my hands of this.
Right, exactly. So he just moved to the house right next door is where he
Still not far enough. Like if you had crazy
Right.
stuff happening, it wouldn't be far enough. I wouldn't think, right? No way.
Absolutely
Moving
not.
way over here.
But it was funny just because then after we acquired, the building, it was because Quincy got a job offer. He had to leave the area.
Oh, okay.
He was selling everything. And I was
Were you
like,
kind of like
"Wait."
staking this out, or
So after we had filmed, A Brush with Evil, right? And like the first 10 minutes of A Brush with Evil is literally us stumbling upon this building that we're going to eventually then call Malvern Manor, which is really weird.
Yeah, odd.
But after
which by the way,
that,
A Brush with Evil, by the way, it was his book and movie now. And
Right.
it's really good. So I'm
thank
just
you.
going to throw that out there. Okay, you can just
It's
Google
scary
it.
AF.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Real things happen.
But from there, it was. I talked to Quincy numerous times. I was like, I don't think you realize like what you have here. Like we experienced more in this building in the first 20 minutes. Like it's just ridiculous.
Like what kind of stuff? What kind of stuff you talking
It's,
about?
it's physical manipulation of objects, which is astounding to me because inanimate objects should not be able to move
No.
on their own.
Does
right?
this still freak you out when you see that? Like you're not used to that, right?
Dude, I am jumpy all the time. I think I like shock a lot of people because like I'll be giving a tour and something weird will happen. And I'm like, what?
Like you're the guy
I freak
guiding them
out.
and you're freaking out.
Exactly. And so I maybe up the creep factor a
Yeah.
little bit there, but it's unintentional.
What was the TV show you guys did? TLC.
Paranormal Lockdown?
Yes, Lockdown. Okay, and one of the comments I remember was something about feeling like eyes were on you.
All the time. It's you walk in the place and it feels like you're being watched. And
I know that
have
feeling.
Always,
Yeah,
it's one of
it's
those
the
things
weirdest
where
feeling.
on paper, it appears as if I'm one of like the owners of the building, right? But I don't feel like that. I
Right.
still feel like this building is theirs. I am working for them. I'm the guy that's vacuuming the floors. I'm taking out the trash. I'm wiping down the counters and
Do you
things.
avoid
of that
going there
nature.
after dark by yourself?
As much as possible, but like the live feeds that we do,
Yeah.
like we do these live feeds, and sometimes it is so bizarre. Like I will have to go back there because I think somebody's in the place,
Somebody's
right?
gotta
You
be
could
doing
swear that
something,
yes,
yeah.
like you're
Even
hearing
after all this
voices.
time, you still think somebody's got. There's no way.
It's funny
It's the
because
Quincy in you.
right,
yeah,
It
everybody
is.
has a
It
little
is.
quince.
Got a little Quincy in you.
but it is funny because like the wife will look at me and she'll be like, "You know what's going to happen when you go over there? Nothing. Right? Nothing is going to go on."
Okay,
And-
what's going on with your doll right now? Let's just the speaking of, we were talking about dolls off before we started the podcast.
So-
and we're going to get back around to dolls. When you're talking about inanimate objects shouldn't
Yes.
move, this is a great example because you put this out there for people to just watch.
Yes. So Rose the doll. Okay. And here's what's fascinating about this. So Rose actually has now left us. The owner came back and got Rose. And that's fine because that's her property. I was just hanging on to it, right? So I was like, absolutely come and get the doll. They're like, could we take the blessed case with it? I said, absolutely not.
No, that's staying here.
I'm like, it was like, yeah, that's definitely staying with me. But regardless, that night, right? Rose leaves us at about 3:00 in the afternoon. By 4, we had our overnight group checking in. They went live on Facebook later that evening, and they were up in what we call Inez's room, which is a small child, the spirit of a small child. So a lot of dolls and creepy things. I stay out of that room as much as possible, but regardless, they're in there. They're doing a Facebook Live, and this other doll, like on camera, thank God this was captured on camera. This doll comes off of the ledge, right? Or off this little table. What was interesting to me is there are objects in front of this doll. And
what?
the
They
way
didn't
the
fall.
doll had fallen, it should have then knocked over these smaller dolls that were in front of her, right? Well, that didn't happen. So I found that curious, right?
Yeah.
Curious.
Then there is even more to this. So also with the doll, it's a porcelain doll, very top heavy. Gravity should have taken over. However, that didn't happen. The doll actually landed feet first, like boom, on her feet. So I've watched this video hundreds of times now, right?
Is this something that we can share? Can you share it from your page?
I have it up on my YouTube channel right now.
We'll share that. That is what?
Oh, it's bizarre. So I took this doll, right, after we had, because the doll broke in a lot of different ways. So we had glued the doll back together, taped her legs and all this stuff, because it was only her legs that had broken, her feet, and
her head should have shattered.
Should have. Because then I took the doll and I took her into this other room that we have in the manor. I put out all of these like air mattresses and things like that, soft surfaces, and I just started moving tables and jumping up and down and hitting her in this way and that way and jarring the table and all of this. Every time the head would take over gravity,
right.
And she would land head first. I'm like, this makes zero sense.
Somebody put her there.
It looks like she jumps off of the dang thing. So it's bizarre, right? So now it makes you wonder, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the absence of Rose then just that afternoon and then this happening, can spirits jump into...
they have to be able to.
Right?
Because if they could be there in the first place, they could choose which doll they want to go in.
Right. So the one that was in Rose or manipulating Rose, but can't leave the house.
Dude.
Maybe it's
wow, I just got goosebumps.
It freaks me out.
Can you put Rose can you put her in the safe box?
Oh, she's already in there.
Okay.
She's already in there. She was in there literally after my experiments and all that stuff. Yeah, she was in there, which she's a bigger doll than Rose, so she really doesn't fit too well. So she's kind of like,
she's I'm like used to it.
I'm like pushing her, get in there,
You misbehaved. I'm sorry.
That's right. That's right. Your timeout prayer box.
You're going to the box.
Prayer box.
Whatever it is.
Go back to Rose real quick. How did you first acquire Rose?
So this lady that was the owner of Rose reached out to me and she's like, you're the only weird dude that I know that's into this stuff. This doll is moving. It's moving.
So she brought that into your house.
Correct. And she was like,
why in the hell would she ever want it back?
Dude, I don't know. Well, I think some of her family then realized where Rose was. And Rose was kind of sentimental, to a lot of the family. And so they were putting pressure on her to get the doll back, which again, totally fine. That's her property,
Weird.
Oh my.
I mean,
but
weird.
Then, and that's just it. So she was like, oh yeah, the doll's moving rooms. It's doing this. It's doing that. I'm like, no way.
Right.
No way. And so I did my own little series of experiments with the doll.
Which was brilliant.
And certainly she's moving. And we're not just talking like, oh, she's turning her head left or right.
Which would be enough.
That would be plenty.
Yeah.
No, she's moving, as in leaving the room. Like, I don't even want to think about it because,
what's the name of that movie?
Child's Play?
Yes.
Chucky? Well, since you said jump off the shelf, I thought of Chucky.
I'm like, no.
No way.
I mean, seriously, that movie freaked me out.
Yeah.
That movie did.
I am not a fan of that. And I hate dolls, guys. I hate dolls.
I do too.
So now, the word's out, right, that I hate dolls. And so... So now, naturally, yes, people are bringing dolls and all this stuff. Like my buddy, one of my best friends is Johnny Hauser from the Villisca Axe Murder House. And so Johnny's like, he'll come over and just be like, so I've had this in the house for the last 15 years. And he goes, and I think it should chill over here for a while. I'm like, that is a terrible idea.
Play date. No way.
I'm like, bro, come on, man. What are we doing?
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
No, you had for a while, quite a while, you had the video that was just set on Rose on your Patreon page. And you could literally just log in and just see what she's doing. And people were just watching her.
Yes. Which is
waiting
ridiculous.
for a movement.
And it's funny, too, because every time that I would put a camera on her, like my office is locked. And I have 2 different locks on this office. Nobody's getting in there. I don't get it. Every time we would put a camera on her, nothing. It's almost like
because they know, right? Yeah, because ghost spirits use electricity, electrical currents potentially to communicate. So she knows that something's trained on her.
But why wouldn't she want people to see her do it?
See, and that's where
with any of the spooks, any of the ghosts, the spirits, and all that stuff, and people go in and some are very responsive, but others are not. And it's like, why wouldn't they want?
So, and that's where my brain does some pretty weird things.
Okay.
When you start thinking like, why wouldn't it want to be recognized or known or anything like that? And ever since we acquired Rose, right? There was a new little entity or whatever that people were picking up on EVP, and it was almost as if it was shushing others, right? You would ask a general question in like Gracie's room, "Hey Gracie, how's your day?" And you would start to get a response. And then you would be like, "Shut up." You would hear like this nasty gravelly voice, and only referring to himself as number one. Every case that I have ever read or studied where a spirit or entity is referring to themselves as a number is never good.
Right. I've heard that as well.
And I don't.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous. So maybe that's kind of why they wouldn't want to be recognized or acknowledged in some way.
So he's kind of controlling things, and if they reach out, that they'll get in trouble.
It would seem that way. Right.
So you've heard that voice
multiple times.
of the
is there anywhere that like the EVPs or anything that we can grab a hold of?
We have some for sure. The malvernmanor.com I think has some videos and things like that.
We'll throw those up on our Facebook page too.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
And then my YouTube channel, which I have been sorely neglecting for a very long time, but now I've just started kind of putting more things out there. So,
Good.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So we're in October,
I know, right?
which is always a great time of year, and I love this kind of stuff. I love talking about this stuff. And what do you guys got going on this month? Or are you pretty much packed up? I understand.
We are like it's just kind of like 'tis the season, right?
Yes.
So like we're busy, sure, but like the 19th, for example, of this month, we have Elizabeth Saint coming in. We have Ashley Godwin from Ghost Hunters International, but Elizabeth Saint from like Ghosts of Shepherdstown.
Yes.
Paranormal Lockdown, all these shows, they're coming in for an event. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be
That's
so much
great.
fun. Yeah.
So that's all on the website.
Yes,
Malvern
where
Manor.
people can get their tickets and all that fun stuff.
You mentioned overnights.
Yes.
Is that still a possibility throughout this month?
Yeah, we do have a few dates.
I mean, if you want
still...
to try and get as close to All Hallows Eve as possible,
Right.
I mean, this
you.
is the time of year to do it.
And when people do it, there is a real danger. First of all, if you believe in this, and then a second, if you do, there's a danger that one of these things could go home with you, backpack on you, right?
I mean,
I've heard that.
and that's
he's
just
really
it.
hung up on that,
Right.
It's really-
But it's just so. It's like a lot of people will say like a little prayer maybe after they're done, or they'll say like, "Hey, thanks for a great time. Whatever's here, please stay here." And that usually seems to do the trick. Yeah, I mean, we've had some weird things that people have reached out to me and be like, this happened, all at my house.
After I left your
I
place.
blame you. Like, awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to Squirrel Cage.
Yes.
That's an experience too.
That's a great place.
And it is like you talked about the eyes. You feel like somebody's watching you, and especially when you got down to the very bottom, where the what do we call it? Isolation,
Solitary
confinement cage is.
Isn't that jacked up?
Holy crap! What weird little troubled mind figured that out to
Right.
say this is a great way to punish them?
I squeezed
That's
myself
terrible.
back there for an hour, and I could not do any more.
I couldn't go in.
No, like I couldn't do it more than an hour. Like it was ridiculous.
If you haven't seen it, it's a stand-up cell.
Yeah.
That it's just big enough for a person to stand in.
It's hard to
and then
breathe
they
just
shut
thinking
the-
about it.
They shut the gate in front of you, so you
Jeez.
can see out, but you can't sit.
Right.
You
And I'm-
can't do anything. You just stand there, and it feels heavy.
It's
when you're in
terrible.
there. Yeah.
Terrible.
Like make you nauseous heavy.
And kind of delicious at the same time. Like it's really crazy.
'Cause
Yeah.
It's
Like,
really there.
Oh, man.
But all the way upstairs to all the way downstairs, it's just everything was awesome.
And that's like the thing that I guess attracts me the most to this is like the history, right? It's like how many people were standing right here,
Right,
where I am
that's
right
cool.
now. You know,
That's
and
true.
We have
That's
access
true.
to all these different places that I mean the general public usually doesn't go to.
Yeah.
You know, and big pieces of history and things like that. I mean, Hauser and I were sitting there talking, and he said, "Man, this building, this Malvern Manor or whatever, was like, the place to be."
Right.
He goes, "Isn't it possible that whoever did the Villisca axe murders could have potentially stayed here a night or two before or after?"
Sure.
I'm like, "Oh God,
Never
Like,
thought about that, right?
right?" And then he was like, "Isn't it possible that even the murders could have been just plotted inside of these walls here. I'm like,
messed
dude.
up.
I mean, seriously, you start thinking about, go back to the mid 1800s to early, the first half of the century, 1900s, first from the century, the 1900s.
Right.
And you think about there were some pretty incredible crimes, and Omaha was kind of a red light district to begin with.
Yes.
And it's not that far from Omaha, 30, 40 minutes.
Right.
That it's highly possible that you had some really bad characters hanging
Just
out
crazy.
there that were at the hotel.
Right. And they're just coming
Still, when
and
it was a
going.
hotel, before
When it was a
had
hotel.
all its other
Before all the
transitions.
other
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So last time you were in, you were on your way to go shoot a documentary somewhere in
Des Moines,
Iowa.
near Des Moines.
In Van Meter.
How did that
And,
go?
Okay, tell us that story.
guys? So we were out there. This is the first time and only time that I've ever heard Johnny Hauser say, "I want to go home." Like
He went with you on this excursion?
He was definitely with me on this excursion.
Okay,
And
this-
Johnny is like a man's man. Okay, he is like
he wanted to go home.
He has
and
an
he-
axe murder house.
Right.
Come on.
right. I'm like, okay. And he's saying, "I want to go home." I freaked out because now I'm like, well, if Hauser wants to go home, I want to go home.
I'm going with
I wanna
him.
Go too.
I'm out of here. The what was it called? The
The Van Meter monster.
monster. I was thinking
Yes.
Monster of Van Meter. Reverse
Right.
that. Because it's kind of like the movie Moth.
The Mothman.
Mothman.
Very, very similar.
Mothman Prophecies.
Yes.
That's what it was. And Richard Gere was in that,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Love that
And
film.
it is. It's
Yes.
a great movie. But it's very similar. But this happened a long time ago.
This was back in 1903. In fact, like as we sit here and chat, this is one of the anniversaries of some of the sightings. Like I literally just got back from Van Meter yesterday because we were doing the Van Meter Visitor Festival.
Oh my God.
Which is, I mean, kind of, chronicling all this fun
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, oh my gosh.
so
Guys,
what did you
crazy.
guys do there?
I mean, it's just a day full of, lectures and speakers. And I mean,
What about
just a chance to talk shop.
What is the Van Meter monster?
So basically, over the course of, I believe it was 5 or 6 days back in 1903, the end of September into early October, a very large flying humanoid thing,
Just like the Mothman.
very similar, but it almost appeared to be almost pterodactyl. Like as weird as this sounds.
I've seen some of the pictures.
Yeah.
Because that's all they had at the time. And
Right.
was that they would give descriptions
Yeah, they would just draw it out
and draw it
all
out.
that.
And it's
That's
pretty
messed
incredible because they were
up.
all the same.
So
Yeah.
what they did was these were people that had something to lose that were witnessing this. These were bankers, lawyers, doctors, things like that. This wasn't like your town drunk just being like, "Look what I saw." No, it wasn't like that. The owner of the bank himself actually was, because a lot of people slept above or in their businesses at that time.
Yes.
That's just what they did. The gentleman that owned and operated the bank was sleeping there. Sees this thing out on Main Street and takes a shot at this thing with his shotgun, blowing out the big bay window in the front of the bank, like causing a lot of damage. Hits this thing, doesn't phase it at all. Many, many people do the same thing. They take shots, they hit it,
Yeah.
nothing. That's it. The last night that this happens, right? The entire town is now just kind of buzzing about this. Everybody in town is ready. They said, quote, they had more ammo that would, like, it was enough to take down the Spanish Armada, is what they said, okay?
In Van Meter, Iowa.
In Van Meter, Iowa, right.
Going to war.
So, yeah, going to war. So, apparently, this thing did appear. It also supposedly had what appeared to be like maybe a child or something with it, like a baby or something with it. Yeah.
Ooh.
They see this. Everybody's taking shots at it. Well, they start to chase it because now it's spooked. It's going outside of town. They chase it out of town. It goes into a coal mine. Naturally, what they do with the coal mine is then they put dynamite in it and they explode the coal mine. So
But they didn't put it all. It wasn't all the way in.
no, just enough to close the mine. So whatever was down there is still down there, including guys like tools, horses. I know for a fact were down there as well. Like there's a lot of stuff that was just, whatever.
That's where they stayed.
Wow.
Because it is
Okay.
that big enough area that you just left them down there. Yeah.
So where we ended up going then and sleeping. was
They opened
right-
the mine back up.
No. But I mean, you could absolutely tell exactly where it's at. Like
Okay,
there is
that's
no
cool, though.
doubt.
So you
where
can't.
this
Nobody
thing
has
is
gone
at.
past where it blew up and closed.
Correct.
Yet.
That's it.
Is that your goal? Do you want to do that?
Eventually, yes. Like I would love to get this thing opened up.
Oh my God.
That would be great. Now, But yeah, that's where we slept. But that's exactly where we slept, and that's where we made camp, was right there at the
the opening of the mouth of the mine. So
super weird.
What do you think happened that caused Hauser wanting to leave?
I know. So there was so
what
much.
happened, okay.
There was so much that happened, guys. Like, I sound like a crazy person even thinking about this. Like, we still don't have a clue what the antecedent of all of this is, right? We witnessed so many different things that night, and we captured this on film. Numerous things in the sky that could not be explained away. Very like UFO type activity, right?
Yeah.
We're out there looking for a cryptid that hasn't been spotted since like 1903. Okay.
And you guys, how far out of town are you probably?
Not even half a mile.
So you're just outside, and this is not a big city. So is it
No.
fairly dark out where you were at?
Very dark. Yep, absolutely. We also had there's a train train tracks that run right next to where we were camping as well, and so we had different pieces of equipment measuring atmospheric conditions and things of that nature. Like, we totally geeked out on all of this. Okay, but regardless, all of these things are sitting like on or around the tracks. Well, we start hearing very distinctly a train. Crap, get all the toys, right?
My
Get the
God.
toys, get them out of there now, right? So we get all this stuff, and as we're filming, you would swear this is coming. This train is about to make the curve around the bend here and come and smash all of our stuff. There was no train.
Nothing.
There was no train.
How do you explain that? I mean,
You're
there's
feeling the vibrations in your feet. You're hearing the
nothing.
unmistakable sound of a train approaching. And
Yeah.
it is loud. This happens twice that night. Twice. There is no train until we saw that an actual train then coming through as we were packing up for the day to go the next day.
and there's
You know
no
what I'm
like
saying?
place where it could get off on before it came around.
No.
An
Like,
exit.
An exit.
No,
Yeah.
there's no off ramp. No
exit track.
Like, it was
just
pretty
didn't
intense.
Did you get that on video at all?
We got it both. Yeah,
Wow.
we got all this stuff
That
on
is
video.
Awesome.
Every anomaly that we saw in the sky, guys, we were hearing. We have very sensitive microphones and things of that nature too, right?
Right.
So real time, we were able to hear what was going on basically inside of the mine.
Wow.
And then, we're putting ourselves out of the equation as much as possible. So no human contamination, right?
Right.
What can only be described as like Gregorian chant in a very odd, dissonant type
Oh my
key.
God.
I don't know.
What?
It was creepy. Now, whenever this would happen, nature around
Yeah.
you, the bugs, the animals, everything would just stop. It would just stop.
There's nothing creepier when cicadas
Right.
just like stop. It's like 'cause they're
Everything
going really,
just
really, really loud,
stops.
and then they
You're
just
like,
all stop at
what
the
do you
same
boys
time.
hear?
It's like, how did you all know to stop together?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? It's something very odd is going on out there, and it's something far
Kind of like what you had
far
said at
beyond this.
Malvern Manor, where if there's an entity like one that
Just quiet. That's it.
Whew, man.
That's
Dude.
crazy. So what is? Tell me about this festival in Van Meter.
Oh man, it's so cool.
I was
It's so
this
cool.
is awesome that
So-
they've like embraced this.
Oh yeah, very much so.
I mean, some cities like Denison has Donna Reed.
Good luck.
Van Meter
yeah.
has
the
their
monster.
monster.
That's right. That's
Have a
right.
festival.
Gee.
It's so crazy.
Hastings has Kool-Aid Man. I mean,
Yes,
let's have a
yes.
festival. This is great.
I
okay.
love it.
So what's going on?
So no, yeah, it's just a bunch of authors and lectures and things like that. Like, I was out there, we were playing music, all sorts of fun
Wow.
stuff. You know what I mean? Just a great
Is
time.
anybody selling little dolls that look like the Van Meter monster?
No,
have
but they do have
t-shirts
like these
or-
really cool little plaster cast things that, and I'm like, oh man, I want to get one of
messed
those so bad, right? But it's super cool. There was a really good book. It's called The Van Meter Visitor. It was written by Chad Lewis.
Okay.
He's written numerous books on all of these haunted road guides to different states and all that. Oh, it's so cool. And Chad's a great guy. He's pretty much the authority on this subject, and so that's how I got kind of hooked up with
Yeah.
all of this. I love it.
So when are you guys planning on releasing a documentary on this?
I want it out by probably Christmas, honestly.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so I'm working very hard on it right now.
That's
like doing
awesome.
the editing and all that fun stuff. So,
Yeah. So once you do this one, this will be part one. Because then you have to have a part two. There has to be a
Probably.
trilogy, probably.
And that's just
You've
it.
got
'cause-
to open up the mine.
Well, it's like the gentleman that owns the mine right now. What's the nice way to put this? He isn't long for this world,
okay.
but he's not very keen on this stuff. Like, it took about a month of work for me to get him to okay this, just
Just
for
to
us
be
to be
there.
out there. Right. Now, his son is a little more open to the idea.
Okay.
Now, his son is also the one that's going to basically inherit this land after Dad
Okay.
passes away.
Sure.
Which is, that's what happens. But
So you gotta be really nice with the son.
but that's just it. Though, is he's actually like a really cool guy.
Good.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he is
Maybe
a
he'll be
cool guy.
interested in
I think so.
finding. I would be.
I think
So would I.
if I owned it.
It would drive me crazy to know that I owned something, piece of
Yes.
land that something could be in
Right.
there. It'd drive me nuts.
Exactly. It's like, don't you want to?
Yes.
When you were a
Yes,
kid,
no.
did like your grandparents ever have like the cellar, the root cellar under the house or in the hill? My grandparents lived in Les Hills outside of Glenwood. And,
Oh, yeah.
And they had both the cellar under the house, and then outside around on the other side was where she had all their canning goods. A lot of her canning goods was in.
yeah.
And it was like a storm cellar, and it had a door that went into it looked like something the Hobbit lived in. And it had a door that went into the side of the hill. And then they had the one that went downstairs. That's where her canning stuff was downstairs. But yeah, and it was like there was no way you weren't going to want to go in there.
Right.
You want to go
You
in
have to.
and explore these places. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, you have to at that point, right?
That's just. I remember there was a house that used to be where Quarry Oaks Golf Course is. And I think the house might still be up there because I used to live right next door to that. Lincoln Waterworks is right there, and then I lived right along there on Highway 6, and that was all the rock quarry up there.
yeah.
Otherwise, but there was a house. It was a dead end road that went up there, and there was a house that was up there that was long time abandoned. Oh man! And we used to go up there and skulk around when we were kids.
Yeah.
I remember once there was a plate on the wall. It was like this design on it, looked like little kids on it. And we moved the plate. Well, my friend did. She moved the plate. Well, that was the chimney, and then ash.
Oh, awesome.
So she got covered in soot.
Of course she did.
But there was a cellar outside, and the door had fallen down into it.
Yeah.
And we managed to get in there to go down there and see what
couldn't
was
do
down
that.
there. I'm thinking about it now. I'm thinking that's dumb.
Dumb.
I mean, let alone let's just talk spiders and snakes.
Right.
Let's just
Forget about ghosts.
right.
Spiders and snakes are enough.
I can't do snakes.
Yeah.
At all. They can move with no legs. That's the devil to me. I'm sorry.
You can live with one all day.
Right.
But snakes, not a chance.
Nope.
Nope.
Not
You
gonna
live with
happen.
number one.
You live-
That's right. And he says no to snakes.
Oh
my
man.
God. All right. So stuff coming up this, as far as people coming by to see you and where can they find more information about you online and about the stuff you've got going on, about the manor, all that good stuff.
So pretty much the one-stop shop is just joshhurd.net. Honestly, like the books are there, the films are there, the Malvern Manor stuff is there. The Patreon stuff, the YouTube stuff, it's all right there. So yeah,
Easy.
It's super easy. Yeah,
That's up on our Facebook page then.
We'll
Awesome.
probably
Thank you.
have you come back. We want to have you come back this month.
I'm fine with
Definitely.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm fine.
We're gonna try and pull in. I think Psychic Andy is coming in.
Yeah.
We want to do a Facebook dead one night. Like where it's, so maybe you can come in for that.
Yep.
I actually laugh to myself every time I say that in my head. I'm like, I think it's the cleverest thing, but it's so stupid. I love it.
Yeah, I
Even-
love it.
But like
So
Prism,
dumb.
Has Prism ever been over to see you guys?
They have numerous times.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good.
Love those guys.
Yeah,
Want to get them
absolutely.
to come in too. That would
So
be
we're
interesting.
in. This is our Super Bowl month. We love this month.
I love this month.
and we love that you're
Yeah.
our friend and you are willing to
You
drive over
kicked
here
it
to be on our
off.
podcast. Yeah.
I do appreciate you guys
Yeah.
having me
Oh,
back.
man,
It's
no
great.
problem.
Absolutely.
It's
Thank
great.
you.
JoshHurd.net,
Yep.
patandjt.com. So it's in .net in there, but that's fine. Thanks for listening to our podcast.
Pat and JT Podcast. A Parkville Media Production.